Bruno disaster class yesterday. Let's call it out as it is. But it was absolutely shocking yesterday, and I think he should have been hooked.
He lost the ball 34 times. That is just not good enough.
It's just not working, and maybe he's trying too hard, Bruno, to make it work, and perhaps that's part of the issue. Is it's not coming as natural to him as maybe it has at previous points in his United career.
We literally lost all control when Xerxes came off the pitch, when Eriksen came off the pitch, when Ahmad came off the pitch. Yes, people, welcome to another episode of Inside Devils. We are back once again to let you know of the latest goings on at Manchester United. It's been another crazy week and another crazy week incoming as well. We are back with our esteemed panel. talkSPORT's football correspondent Alex Crook joins us from the Etihad as well. He's getting ready for Arsenal taking on Manchester City later on today. And Angelina Kelly, talkSPORT reporter, is back as well. We are your cast. We've got to get straight into this, guys. Yesterday against Crystal Palace, Manchester United 0, Crystal Palace 0. Annoying, I'm going to start off by saying, guys. Really, really annoying because we did so much right, created so much chances, especially in the first half, and didn't hit the back of the net. And to be fair, there were moments where Palace could have scored really big chances from Eze. Didn't have his shooting boots on. Onana saved us as well. The substitutions killed us. There's a lot to unpack, even though we played really, really well. I'll start with you, Angelina. I mean, what did you make of it yesterday?
It was a really frustrating game. From the beginning, it did feel like it was a different side to the one that got beat 4-0. We're a lot more in control of the game. You know, I think there was like 4 shots on target in the opening 15 minutes. So I feel like Ten Hag got it right in so many ways. The subs, there are a few question marks, but I think he got it right in a lot of ways. And it was just one of those situations where Man United weren't clinical enough. I think you do think about a little bit of luck in these situations. Dean Henderson as well, who was like, you know, some guy trying to impress his ex and show them what they're missing or something. I don't know. He was like, he really was, he was key for Palace. But I think for me, it's just this whole idea of Man United being so wasteful. It's proof that we're capable, but the whole picture isn't there. The fact that we kept an informed Mateta and Wharton, you know, quite quiet in that they were subbed off at half time. The only thing that really bugs me is you have all of these shots, we're not converting them into goals, and when we're playing the bigger teams, we're not going to have as many shots, and we can't afford to be so wasteful. And even yesterday, we couldn't afford to be that wasteful because we didn't end up converting, and it ended 0-0.
Crookie, I mean, for you, we thought we'd win it narrowly. There was plenty of chances to be able to do that. It's just a case of, you know, keep being patient and it will happen, or does Eric need to make further adjustments to this team?
I've got to say, when the team sheet came in, I was surprised that having persisted with an underperforming Marcus Rashford for so long, that when he actually finds some goals and gets a bit of confidence, he's dropped to the bench. So that was perplexing. Having said that, I thought United were excellent in the first half. I thought they dominated the game. They've had 4 or 5 big chances, and let's be honest, they could have been out of sight by half-time. The second half, I thought the performance was less convincing, particularly when those subs were made. There were too many backwards and sideways passes for me. But I think my overriding emotion is the same as you two. I wasn't angry, I wasn't upset, I think I was frustrated, much like when they conceded that last-minute goal against Brighton, because the performance was better, certainly, than it was in this fixture last season when we got walloped 4-0. There are signs now that United have the capability to set the tempo and dictate games, but they're not clinical enough. You know, Garnacho, for me, as much as it was an excellent save from Henderson, he has to score. I'm looking at Joshua Zirkzee, and he did a lot good. I think his link-up play and the way he holds the ball up is excellent. But as I mentioned, I think on last week's podcast, he isn't going to score 15, 20 goals this season. And actually, I know we're going to debate it, but it'll be interesting, now that Rasmus Højlund is back fit, is there an argument to drop Zirkzee into that number 10 role and maybe take Bruno Fernandes out of the team, because I thought he was really poor.
Well, let's get on to that, Crookie. And actually, Angelino, I'll come to you on this. Let's get into the big talking points, because, you know, a lot of the Manchester United community I saw online, a lot of the guys we did the game with, and my personal thoughts was that Bruno disaster class yesterday. Let's call it out as it is. I don't think we should dress it up. Well, in my opinion, I thought it was absolutely shocking yesterday, and I think he should have been hooked. And Ten Hag persisted with him, and if you do that, Ten Hag, Bruno needs to produce a moment of magic, and the magic didn't come. So we're quite rightly looking at him saying, well, Eriksen was playing well, you know, Xerxes playing well in that position. Is it now time, Angelina, to start looking at Bruno and saying, look, he's not in form. We want consistency and players to play in form. Take him out. Put Xerxes in the 10. Put Eriksen in the 10, which we wouldn't have been saying that a few months ago as well, by the way, of Eriksen. But what do you think about this Bruno situation, Angelina? Is it an overreaction? Do we need to be patient, or does he need some time out?
I don't think we need to be patient. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is one of the the highest paid players. He's our captain. He is, one of those kind of leaders in the attacking game for United. So I think I completely agree with you guys. He wasn't good enough. I mean, we were looking at some stats. He lost the ball 34 times. Like, that is just
Incredible.
not good enough. And the whole Xerxes Eriksen thing, I think it's definitely something to explore, because Ten Hag has this ethos of, we need to play our best players. We need to rotate. So why not switch things up? I would probably angle more towards Xerxes, just because, no disrespect to Eriksen, he's been great, but Xerxes is our future. Let's be honest. So why not tweak things with him a little bit? I just think when you look at Bruno Fernandes in general, last season, he scored against the likes of Everton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, Sheffield United. You look at him as the man for the job when it comes to teams that on paper we should be beating, which Crystal Palace this season is a team that we should be beating, despite what's happened in the past. And you look at these attacking leaders, and I was looking at the attacking leaders for other teams. So you think about Arsenal, you think about Martin Odegaard, you think about Kevin De Bruyne for City, you think about Mo Salah. They all scored against Palace at Selhurst Park last season. All the sides won. And we speak about Bruno kind of being, I'm not saying he's on the same level in certain ways, but he's our equivalent of that, of our leader in attack. And I want him at that level. He needs to be in those conversations with them. So the fact that he has really let us down in that game, I completely agree. It should have been a Casemiro situation of taking him off. And I think that there's a lot of question marks, and I would be really happy to see Erik ten Hag try and tweak and change things.
I know you're a big Bruno advocate, usually, I think, Crookie, aren't you? What are you seeing? Because he signed this new deal. It hasn't been great for him after that. Do you think Eric needs to take him out? Do we need to see Xerxes in the 10? Do we need to see Eriksen in the 10? Mason Mount in the 10? Do we need to see a change in there to at least let him earn his spot back? No player should be untouchable, right?
No, you took the words out of my mouth. I don't think we should necessarily make a connection between the new contracts and a perceived lack of form at the start of the season, because I genuinely don't think that Bruno is that type of character that he's going to rest on his laurels just because he's got a big pay rise. I think his standards actually individually have been quite high in an underperforming team. But you're right, what we do have now is options, and Ten Hag showed his ruthless streak, left out Rashford, said it was a technical decision, wanted to rotate the squad, obviously a big European opener to come in the week, and then Tottenham at Old Trafford. But Bruno can't be exempt from that. I mean, it's fantastic that he's got such a good record of rarely, if ever, missing a game injured. But if he isn't performing, you've got Xerxes who can play there. You've mentioned Eriksen and Mason Mount. The common consensus is that he had a really good first half in that defeat at Brighton before he got injured. So I think he'll be chomping at the bit as well. I'd be surprised if Fernandes starts against FC Twente, but then again, he might start just to try and
exactly
bolster his confidence and maybe get a goal or two. But at the moment, it's just not working. And I think maybe he's trying too hard, Bruno, to make it work, and perhaps that's part of the issue. It's not coming as natural to him as maybe it has at previous points in his United career.
Yeah, Ten Hag's got this knack for sort of going to players that are his go-to players. Well, let's just be honest. In Rashford and Bruno, in particular, he hangs his hat on them, and it's only recently and back in the last season, we maybe saw a few cracks in the Rashford one where even Ten Hag got a bit fed up. We saw him take him off against Brighton as well. And this is the fine margins, right? Because against Brighton, we saw Erik ten Hag take Bruno off for Scott McTominay. And we raised our eyebrows and went, well, I don't know about this. If Scott McTominay goes on to score, great, well done, Eric. It proves that, there's no favourites. Even Bruno came off. We saw Rashford come off in that game. We went, 60-odd minutes, Bruno. This is a different Ten Hag. But we went on to lose the game, and then you go, and you took your captain off, the most likely to get an assist or a goal, and you brought on Scott McTominay. So he is kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. One criticism I did have of Erik ten Hag yesterday was the 3 substitutions that he made. They were all similar players who helped us keep control of the game. So you're looking at Ahmad, you're looking at Xerxes, you're looking at Eriksen. These players were helping us play really well, weren't they, Crookie? And then you replaced them with Rasmus Højlund, who's been out for ages, but he needs games, I get it. You replace him with Ugarte, who's not going to do more on the ball than Eriksen. And when Rashford came on, he didn't have an impact. So we literally lost all control when Xerxes came off the pitch, when Eriksen came off the pitch, when Ahmad came off the pitch.
Yeah, I thought the Ugarte transfer was quite negative, to be honest, because they were controlling the game, and were they trying to see out a point at that stage? Maybe they were, by the way, because one of the first things that Erik ten Hag said in his post-match interview was it was better than Brighton, where we were drawing the game and we've ended up throwing away a point. We didn't want to do that today, but I thought that change in particular was quite negative. And if you look in contrast to what Oliver Glasner did at half-time, big calls, Mateta, banging form, Adam Wharton, terrific player, both taken off the pitch. I think Jefferson Lerma made a big difference for Palace in that midfield area that United were dominating. And Ismaila Sarr gave Palace an outlet. So you've got one manager who got his substitutions right to try and change the course of the game. And in Ten Hag's case, he didn't.
What do you think, Angelina? Was it too much scrutiny on Ten Hag? Because to build a case in the opposite, to play devil's advocate, though, if he doesn't, we're talking about how there's so many players back and we've got a wealth of options on the bench. You're talking about Casemiro, you're talking about Højlund, you're talking Mason Mount, you're talking Rashford, you're talking Ugarte. There's 5 players there. We're going, wow, this looks healthy. If he doesn't use that bench and then we get an injury later on, you're going, look, he's clueless, he didn't use the bench. Do you sympathise with Erik ten Hag, or do you get the criticism that actually all of his subs didn't work?
I understand that it might be difficult having those options, but that's what being a Premier League manager is. You're supposed to have a squad with depth that you have to chop and change things. And the subs for me, like I said earlier, massive question marks. Joshua Zirkzee should not have come off the pitch. It was total regression after he came off. And I'd seen some kind of like maps of successful passes in the attacking third. I think whilst he was in the game, 91 out of 124 were successful. Post him coming off, 17 out of 28 were successful. That just kind of says it all. The fact that he set up Garnacho's first chance, that chance for Bruno in the second half, this is somebody who we've spent money on this guy. We've brought this guy in. There's been this talk of, we need to give these new signings time to, get themselves, comfortable with Manchester United and English football and blah, blah, blah. He proved in that game that he was more than comfortable and he was more than capable. So for me, I would have, if someone's playing well like that, keep them on the pitch. So, yeah, for me, that was the one that really, really stood out for me, that it just really changed the game in such a negative way. But it also excited me in that I want to see more of this guy play, because there were moments where he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying there. And actually, let's bring in some of the positives. It's 4 clean sheets in our last 6 Premier League games, obviously including the back end of last year, because we kept a clean sheet against Brighton last day of the season, so we cheated a little bit there with that stat. But in terms of the defence, guys, it's looking quite settled. I think De Ligt was very good. I think Martinez, he had a bit of a head loss with a crazy tackle, which it wasn't a red card, but I don't know why he's tackled in that manner. I don't know what he was thinking, but we know he's getting stronger. I thought Dalot was excellent. I thought, he was one of our chief creators in the first half, especially stepping into midfield, providing chances, good defensive. Mazraoui is getting stronger and fitter. He's looking really good. Andre Onana, with those 2 saves, were absolutely massive, by the way. The second one against Sarr, he's almost got no right to save. Crookie, is the defence getting more settled, and are we looking at a better unit now as a positive?
Yeah, I think you're right to pick out De Ligt. I thought he was excellent, a real threat on set pieces as well. Arguably should have scored with a header in the first half. Looks to be forming a really fruitful partnership already with Lisandro Martinez. I slightly disagree with you, Flex. I think Martinez is a lucky boy. I think 9 times out of 10...
You think that was a red? You think that was a red?
I think in the current game, 9 times out of 10, VAR recommend a review there and a red card. I don't know what he's doing. No. My lad's playing this morning, and if he goes in with 2-footed tackle like that, I'd be like, where's your head at? So I think it was a big risk. I think he was a lucky boy. But Onana, big week for him. Saved the penalty against Southampton. Brilliant double save in this one. So I think he's playing as confidently as he ever has done in a Manchester United shirt. So certainly there's more defensive stability. But Martinez lucky to stay on for me.
What did you make of that, Angelino? Actually, it's an interesting one, because it was a stupid knees up, 2-foot stamp. The only thing I think that saves him getting sent off is the fact that he makes contact with the ball first and doesn't really take out the Crystal Palace player. And
Yeah.
And he's very fortunate. But like Rookie said, very, very stupid tackle to even attempt.
Yeah, the whole thing was quite strange when it happened, and then I saw the replays. I was like, "What is the thought process here? Just ridiculously reckless. There's no need for it." And I'm kind of in between with you guys. I do think he was quite lucky, and I think it's down to the positioning of that Crystal Palace player. Otherwise, it could have been very, very bad. But the back four in general and Onana, I'm just really happy to see that. Could we actually have a defence that's gelling and he's actually working well? The main thing for me, and I don't want to be cynical, but we've got to keep him fit. This is the one thing that's like in the back of my mind, stressing me out. If we can keep these players fit, I think we've got something really exciting there. And De Ligt as well has really, really impressed me. And I know I've mentioned it on like the last two episodes, but having such a mare of an international week the way that he did, the way that he was scrutinised, again, this guy for me is quite special. I think his mentality is great. I think he's quite dangerous as well when it comes to, the chances that he had. And you even look ahead to the Spurs game and I'm thinking, Spurs, when it comes to set pieces, this is like the massive narrative for them. I think we need to exploit that. And I think that De Ligt could potentially do a little bit of damage from what he's shown us so far.
Yeah, for sure. Another positive I wanted to pick out as well is our confidence on the ball. We're knocking the ball around really well, creating lots of chances. Possession wise, we're seeing us do as well as we ever can. And I saw a stat yesterday that Man United have missed the most big chances, 17. They topped that list. I think Villa are up there, Man City are up there as well. One of the second highest XGs or one of the highest XGs. And I'm not an XG merchant. I'm not one for that. But even with the eye test, you can see it. You don't need numbers to tell you. We are creating a lot of chances. And actually, in the last few games, I know first half an hour against Southampton was shocking. But after that, we played the game in the right spirit and the right way. And that confidence and possession and domination of possession, Crookie, is starting to come through. That is something looking forward. If we are going to get in the top four, at least keep doing the right things more often than not. And you'd think the goals will start to come, right? Because it's about being in the positions and creating the chances first.
Yeah, I was impressed with the way we kept hold of the ball in the first half and looked after it. Kobbie Mainoo, I thought, was excellent in that regard. So too Eriksen, who's had a bit of a renaissance, hasn't he, in the last week or so. I guess you can take the big chances missed in two ways. One, that we're creating opportunities, but two, and it was a problem last season as well, are we clinical enough? Do we have the players at the top end of the pitch who are going to make the most of those opportunities? I think it's going to be a big period now for Rasmus Højlund. Obviously missed the start of the season, disappointing for him. If he can come back firing as he was towards the end of last season, then maybe some of those big chances might start to be converted.
Yeah, and actually at the beginning of the game there was a lot made about Ten Hag's sort of changes to the team. You know what you said, Cricket, at the beginning of the show, that we finally get a confident Marcus Rashford, or looking like he's going to be that, and he takes him out. But it was interesting what Eric said, Angelina, when he said, well, not a hard decision for me. We've got a lot of games coming up. I want to rotate the players. And I was sort of talking about it on our streams. I said, actually, do we need to move away from that as United fans of like, this guy should be the one to be starting, and this guy, when actually we just want them all chomping at the bit. We want them all hungry. We've got a lot of games. We want the rotation. It didn't work because Rashford didn't come on and have the impact. And Garnacho proved why he should have been starting. He did everything right but score. Is Eric right to go down this route of like, I'm not going to have these favourites. I will keep rotating these wingers and keep them really, really hungry. And I'm going to do the same with the number 9s. We've got, for the first time in a long time, we have options.
Yeah, it is great that we have options. I think it was just a weird one because this isn't the kind of mantra he's been going by, because he's continued to play Marcus Rashford when I think everyone has been able to see that he's not been in form. So I think that's why it raised the eyebrows, because it's a bit like, hang on, you've been backing this guy when he's been bad. Now that he's good, maybe there's something he knows that we don't know. Maybe it's like, now that his confidence is there and he scored these goals, maybe it's a case of, right, we've got you where we need you to be. Now I can go back to how I would normally operate. I don't think it was the right decision, because I don't think Rashford was effective coming off the bench. The Garnacho one is difficult because he is a super sub. He's kind of given himself that name, already this season. But he deserved to start. So it's a bit of a tricky one, but I just think I like that Ten Hag. I don't want him to have favourites. As much as I rate Marcus Rashford, I don't want it, because I think it's pressure on the player as well. I don't like that. So I'm more than happy for him to mix things up because it keeps players hungry, like you say. And yeah, we've got options finally. We need to utilize those options because if we do want to be challenging for that top four, if we want a good run in the Europa League and the cup games, you need to be able to rotate and these players all need to be ready. So I understand why there's questions over it, but I will be very happy if Erik ten Hag does not have favourites and he switches it up.
Well, let us know what you guys are thinking about the review of the Crystal Palace game, guys. There was a lot of reaction out there online. I saw people saying this fraud of a manager, this is why, we couldn't get it done again. Where's the style of play in the second half? Absolute fraud. I saw people saying, listen, a lot of positives to take. The goals will come. We are creating chances. We've got an element of control. Players need to finish their dinner. Keep doing the same thing. But the Bruno one was quite unanimous. I'm not going to lie about that. A lot of opinion about that was he should have come off. So loads of opinion. We want to hear it from you guys as Inside Devils. This is a chance for you guys to have your say in the comments below as well. Now, let's look ahead to Spurs because, yes, it's FC20 during the week as well. But we'll skip that one just for now because the big one is Spurs. Angelina, how do you see it? Should Xerxes be dropping into that 10 position? Rasmus Højlund, of course, we want to get him firing again. Does he need to start? What happens here?
I think with the whole Højlund thing, I personally don't know if he's ready to start. He didn't look great, in my opinion. And Erik ten Hag seems to be very cautious with people being ready and how he plays people and what kind of minutes he gives them. So I want Højlund to be firing on all cylinders. I want him to be fit and ready. I just don't know if he is 100%. I would like to see Ugarte start. I think it'd be interesting to see him and Mainu. The Xerxes with the number 10, I'm not mad at it, like I said earlier. I think it's definitely worth trying something. I would rather try Xerxes than Eriksen, as the point I made earlier, that I just think that Eriksen, I've got nothing against him, but Xerxes, the priority for me. And I think it will just be very, very interesting against Spurs. They have this kind of high line. I could see Xerxes dropping in a little bit. Maybe even we see like a Garnacho and Rashford on the wings. They could kind of work running in behind. I see that maybe working. Anything, is anything less than a win unacceptable maybe? It's a really tough one because Spurs, if we want to be in the top four, we should be beating Spurs. This is arguably quite a good time. I know that, it's been a while since the North London derby now, but I think this is a good time to play them. Like I said about these set pieces, I think, players, I'm sure we'll hear stuff. Everyone's talking about these set pieces. Maybe they're a little bit nervous about them. Maybe something in the back of their minds that they're cautious about. Like I say, I would like to see us exploit that. I think the De Ligt could be really good. So yeah, I'm excited for the game, believe it or not. I'm looking forward to it.
Crookie, what say you?
Yeah, I think there's an argument for trying Xerxes in the 10. Maybe the Europa League game might be a better opportunity than Tottenham at the weekend. But I think I play Rashford because what do we know about Spurs? Ange loves to play a high line. They're susceptible to pace. I think you want all your quick players out there. Rashford on one side. Maybe Garnacho as a false number 9 if we consider that with Ahmad on the other flank. But definitely I think Rashford will play. And I'd probably bring Ugarte into midfield as well just to try and get him to get into a physical battle with the likes of Ugarte. And Kulusevski was really effective actually for Tottenham in the game I was at on Saturday. Maddison probably had his best game of the season as well. So United are going to have to stifle those threats. But listen, lads and lady, it's Tottenham. It's only Spurs.
Exactly. They got the Spurs gene in there. They got the Spursy vibe in there. And look, I watched quite a few parts of that game. And at 2-1, bro, Crookie, you was there. 2-1, Vicario was having a bit of a clanger. He had to also get forced into some big saves as well. They took their eye off the ball. Spurs, quite slow starters. Starstruck from the Mbeumo chance straight from kickoff. What a goal it was. Spurs will give you chances. You can run in behind. You are going to need Rashford for sure. Ahmad is very pacey as well, but keeps the ball very well. But we are going to need runners going towards goal in behind Spurs. That's going to be the best way to do this. I would bring in Ugarte. I do think we need that steal in midfield. You need to be combative in there. I'm not opposed to having Eriksen in the 10 or Xerxes in the 10. I don't think Erik ten Hag would do it at all. I really don't. I think he will go with Bruno. Definitely. It's a big game against a top 6 club at home. I don't see there a way where he doesn't have Bruno in there. And of course, what we do against FC20 as well, if we build momentum from that with Bruno back in there, which again, I just can't see him taking him out. I can't see it. But then we've said this about Rashford before, and then we've been sort of surprised. And Angelina touched on it earlier in the show. It's so hard to guess now what Ten Hag's really going to be doing, isn't it, Crookie?
Yeah, but that's a good thing because it means there's options where maybe there wasn't before. I think the point Angelina made about set pieces is really important because Vicario had some real bad moments yesterday. Handled the ball outside his penalty area.
Oh,
and
that
actually,
was
it's
ridiculous.
Been a bonus. Well, how the referee missed a goalkeeper wearing bright orange handballing it is beyond me. But a big bone of contention for me over the last few years has been United's failure to capitalise on set pieces. I think Harry Maguire should have scored a lot more goals than he has. The set piece delivery, particularly in that first half, was good on Saturday. If they can replicate that, well, stick De Ligt in your fantasy league team because he might be the hero.
Yeah, they're working on something there. A lot of like lofted, floated deliveries from Eriksen rather than the whipped out swinger or an in swinger from Ahmad because he's been on some set piece duties as well. And De Ligt's getting on the end of quite a lot, whether it's heading it back across goal or getting direct shots from it. So we have to do that. We need to do. Look what Arsenal did to them last week. They've got a soft underbelly, Spurs, from set pieces, whether it's defending them man to man or in zones, and then whether it's the keeper trying to come for it or being pinned back. We've got to be on that from the start. And as for the defence, Angelina, like I said, you have to go with pretty much the same. I know Luke Shaw's nearly back, but he's not going to be back in time to be starting that, no way. And you just go with the same again, don't you? Dalot left back, Mazraoui right back, and two same centre-halves.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for me, to be completely honest, I get why people love Luke Shaw, but he's not even entering my mind at the minute.
No.
I think that Man United do need to plan for a future without him anyway, because I just don't think he can stay fit. So yeah, I'm happy to see Dalot on that side. And Mazraoui, both can play either. So I'm more than happy with them. And like I say, Luke won't be ready anyway.
Is anything other than the win, Angelina, unacceptable? Like, is it how much of a must-win game is this? 5 games in now, we're mid-table. We've had mixed results. The performances look like they could be getting better, but we need the results to match now, don't we?
For me, if Manchester United want to be in the top 4, want to be competing, I mean, even if you're not, this is a must-win game. We should be winning this game. I think that when you look at certain players, certain areas of the pitch, I think that we're a lot better than Spurs. I think that Spurs, it's been very up and down for them. I would really like to see us exploit that. So, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if it does end up being a draw, it's hard to say because you don't know what kind of performance you're going to see. You don't know what's going to happen. But going into it blindly, Man United should be beating Spurs because if we want to be in the top 4, if we want to be contending for trophies outside of the Premier League, a team like Spurs, we should be beating.
Crookie, I don't want to be too negative, but a loss. What does that look like? Because if it's at home as well against another top 6, that'll be Liverpool coming and giving us a humbling. It could be Spurs doing the same thing. That's definitely not a good look as well for Erik ten Hag early on.
No, and obviously we've lost at Brighton as well. So in a minute we've been taking points from the games you'd expect us to, and losing the ones that maybe are more challenging. So I think it's an opportunity for a big statement to be sent out. We've got a good record historically against Tottenham. I'm confident, actually. I agree with Angelina. I think if we're serious about the top 4, you have to beat Tottenham at home, and I think we will. I've seen Spurs in the flesh 3 times this season. Mixed bag of performances, very average against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Swept away Everton, but everybody sweeps away Everton. And they gave Brentford some change yesterday. So if United control the game as well as they did in the first half at Selhurst Park, and they're more clinical, they'll win this game.
And this is the chance, really. You talk about pressure on managers. Obviously, Ange's been under a little bit of pressure recently. And it's these games are the tipping points. This is the chance, this is a fellow top 4 rival. They've got aspirations of getting in there. This is the chance to put some pressure on them. If they go to United and have a bad performance and get beat up all over the place, then the pressure goes back on them and goes off us. It's these little mental battles, these little perceptions of pressure and stuff like that we have to start being on the right end of. And it's all good us playing good football and creating chances, but we do need it to come to fruition. And I'm with you guys. I think we'll win the game. I think that we'll be on it. I think we're playing well enough. I actually think the biggest thing for me is actually to continue doing what we're doing. We don't actually have to deviate from the plan. I don't think too much needs to be changed. A little bit of personnel maybe, again, if there's form. But in terms of if the team keep playing the same way, I do think it's a matter of time before it clicks. I really, really do, because it's not like last season where we're facing 17 shots on average per game. That's not happening anymore. We're winning the ball back a lot quicker. We're creating a lot more chances. There are improvements, but when it don't transpire into 3 points, that's when you start losing patience. That's when confidence can dwindle a little bit. And for the players to keep buying into what we're trying to put down, what Erik ten Hag's trying to get them to do, we need results and we need them quick. And just like you said, keeping pace with the rest of the top 4. You know, Brighton play today. We'll see what they do. You saw Aston Villa, they turned it around, got the 3-1 win. All of a sudden, you start falling behind very, very quickly from the pack, and that's something Man United can't afford to do. Stupidly, I was looking at it this week going, I tell you what, we beat Palace. You know, if Arsenal lose against Man City, you know, we're only 1 point off Arsenal. We're all in it. Liverpool lost last week against, Forest. We can, and then all of a sudden you drop 2 more points. Then those teams go and win. I know they both can't win today in City and Arsenal, obviously, but all of a sudden it changes, and then Villa are further away from you, Arsenal further, and then you're still in mid-table after 6-7 games, and you're going, we need something here. So. Yeah, let's lock in the predictions, guys. Let's get it in to finish off the show. Angelina, what's the score going to be?
I am backing this whole clean sheet situation with Man United. So I'm gonna go 2-0. Man United win.
2-0 Man United win. Crookie?
I'm going to go 3-1 United. So I think Spurs will score, but I think United will finally find their shooting boots.
I'm going to go 2-1 Manchester United. I think it will be, cagey at some points. But yeah, I do like the clean sheet that you're saying, though, Angelina. If I was going to go with a clean sheet, I don't think we'll be high scorers. I think we might win 1-0.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go for a 2-1. Guys, let us know what you think. Get your predictions in the boxes below. Let us know how you feel about the game. Make sure you smash a like on the show as well. Also, we have to send a big shout out to the women's team. They kicked off the WSL campaign with a 3-0 win at Old Trafford over West Ham women. Goals from Jace, Leah Galton and Grace Clinton as well. So shout out to the women on that, off to a winning start. I mean, if we can bring the title to Old Trafford in the Women's League as well, that would be absolutely brilliant. First time in our history. That absolutely needs to happen. And remember, you can catch us from Old Trafford directly straight after the game, on location after the Spurs game. The Inside Devils will be on the road, because I tell you what, the game's so big, we're not waiting to get into the studio. We need instant reaction. So we'll see you then.